character I decided to cosplay is Laudna from Campaign 3 of Critical Role. She describes herself as fun, scary, and enjoys sewing, general crafting, and fixer-upper projects. She is also an undead humanoid. I wanted to use these aspects of her character to inform my creative choices throughout this costume. To create Laudna's hairstyle, I used an epic cosplay Hecate in black with wefts in classic white. I cut open the wig at the hairline to install the white wefts. I roughly styled the half-up, half-down look with the wig on my own head to ensure I placed it in a way that looked natural, and then put the wig back on the styling head to steam the fibers to fall back the way I wanted. The bun is a pre-made hairpiece that I found on Amazon and is kept in place with a comb and pins. The rock pick was made using a thin wooden knitting needle as a base. At the thicker end of the needle, I made the rough form of the pick head using tin foil, which was then covered with foam clay and then sanded smooth. The paint job consists of filler primer spray and then a coating of metallic silver paint and a black wash to weather it. All of this was topped with a glossy finishing coat. For the shirt, I modified a pre-existing pattern to have the torso and neckline shapes that I wanted. I then created a pattern for the repeating embroidery designs on the cuffs and front of the shirt and stitched this in by hand. For a personal touch, I went through the embroidery and added beading to the larger yellow triangles and diamonds. I also included a border of chain stitches in purple around the red V shapes to make them pop a bit more, as well as tie into the color of her eyeshadow and lipstick. All other details were completed by adding in rows of chain stitches, twill tape, and painting heart-shaped buttons gold to mimic the pointed shapes up the side of her shirt. The waist cincher is made up of several layers of material. The lining is done in cotton, the interior contains a mid-weight canvas as well as a mid-weight fusible interfacing and supports the spiral steel boning. The outer layer is done in a stretch faux suede. This all laces up in the back, and the whole piece is bound off in bias tape. Around the waist cincher are two belts made of pleather with cotton lining. These were flat-faced and zigzag stitched together. These belts also sport functional hardware. The white sash hanging off of her belt is done in a cotton material that I found at a local thrift store. The reel of ribbon is made from a plastic ribbon reel left over from a previous project and painted to resemble real wood. I then padded it out with batting so that when I glued down a length of ribbon onto it, it would look like it held more ribbon than it actually did. The scissors are made out of a single layer of foam for each half of the blade, so that I wouldn't have to carry around real scissors, which would have severely weighed down my belt. Alongside the pouch is her dead rat named Pate de Rollo. He was made by creating a wire frame covered in tin foil and foam clay. The skull is made in the same way. I then glued faux fur onto the body and shaved it down to create a natural rat fur feel. The skull is painted cream white with multiple shades of brown dry brushed on to create a more natural bone look. His tail is a length of wire with a bit of stretch velvet sewn around it so that he could be hung from the sash as in the reference art. On the sash is a pouch made of pleather and lined in a recycled throw pillow cover. I used leftover embroidery floss from the shirt details to add some decorative stitches to the flap edges. The fox button used to close the pouch is a nod to a fox mask that Laudna wears to a ball during the campaign. For both the top and bottom skirts, I used a 100% cotton gauze material. This gauze came with a beautifully wrinkled texture and draped perfectly. The bottom skirt was dyed from its original off-white color to the desired shade of gray. As the material is stretchy, I secured the seams down with the zigzag stitch and left the bottom hem raw for weathering. For the strips of trim on the top skirt, I wasn't happy with the trim options I was finding in stores or online, so I decided to make my own by finding a crochet tutorial on YouTube and learning how to crochet spider webs. In total, I crocheted about 48 spider webs, 38 of which were used on the skirt. For the areas where the trim was going to go, I installed a strip of netting material. The spiderwebs themselves were sewn in by hand. Each row of spiderwebs is bordered by a strip of bias tape, finished off in a zigzag stitch with the same red thread used on the shirt for a tiny pop of color detail. I made her shoes myself using a pattern for sun shoes created by the store Earthing Moccasins on Etsy. They consist of 2 layers of pleather top stitched together for comfort. Laudna is pictured in the reference art wearing a pair of elf ear-shaped ear cuffs. At the time of filming, I was waiting for the base earrings I bought to modify to come in the mail. These will be completed and available to view at the in-person judging session.